how do you, who person can't read or write, actually take on these cases and put 20 these cases per week?
So I get into a very regimented structure in terms of how I do my work. And that's absolutely correct. There's 25 cases that I'm responsible for each week. And it's interesting, David, what's important to point out is these are very intense cases. These are murder cases, these are rape cases, these are civil cases where you're dealing with environmental regulation, utility regulation, you're dealing with malpractice issues, you're dealing with whether or not parents will ever see their children again. So every one of these matters is far-reaching. It has to be done right because people's lives are literally hanging in the balance. And your question is, how does it work? 25 cases every single week. Every one of them affects people and the community and the whole state. And you can't see. So do you put the cases into braille? Do you use a computer? Well, every Wednesday, the 7 justices on the Supreme Court of Michigan gather for conference, where we make determinations and decisions that are forever. So if we deny a case, that's it. A person will spend the rest of their life in prison. And so the way that it works is you've got 25 cases and you're going to vote on each and every one of those cases. So people say, well, okay, do you put the cases into braille? And the answer is no, you can't, because if you're dealing with a murder case, you're going to have a 3-week transcript. So you can't put it into braille because if I give you 1 textbook page, you're going to give me 65 braille pages. So braille's not going to work. So then people say, well, what about using your computer? Can you use technology? And the answer is no. And the reason for that is if I'm listening to my headset, I can't communicate with the other judges. So the way that I prepare is I memorize all 25 cases. I know them backwards and forwards. And the way it works is the commissioner will say, okay, justices, we are now at case 18. Case 18 is a carjacking on Woodward Avenue that resulted in 2 homicides. When I hear the fact pattern, it becomes my mental trigger, and I'm able to recall the case in its entirety to the point that I can debate and discuss the case with you and all the corresponding legal issues that are relevant. And very quickly, there's one other little challenge. We're a common law system. So not only do I have to internalize the case that I'm voting on, but I have to know all the relevant cases that work in my favor, and I have to know all the relevant cases that work against my argument. So that way I can distinguish and say, look, even though that case says X, the fact pattern is different than the case that we're discussing today, so it's a wholly different case. So ultimately, you have to know the case backwards and forwards, and you have to know all the corresponding common law cases that are relevant to make your argument to your colleagues as to what you think the court should do and how you think the court should proceed on every case that comes before us.